the late life cycle of the Sega Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis as it's known in the US, Sega Technical Institute was still able to come up with a unique game for the system, which was Comix Zone. The game was first pitched by Peter Morawiec in 1992 using a concept video titled Joe Pencil Trapped in the Comix Zone. After starting development, the game was put on hold as the focus was to release Sonic Spinball for the 1993 holiday season. While it seemed Comix Zone was scrapped, Kalinske revived the project as he was interested in the concept. Finally, in 1995, Comix Zone was released. Because it was released late in the lifecycle of the system with the Sega Saturn N64 and new PlayStation piquing the consumer's interest, Comix Zone ended up as a commercial flop. But since its release, the game has gotten a cult following, with more and more people discovering and appreciating the game so many years after its initial release. Now it's time for me to see if this game is as good as some say it is, or if this game fails to live up to those claims. You play as Sketch Turner, who is working on his newest comic book, Comix Zone. When a lightning bolt hits his comic book, the villain of his story, Mortis, escapes the book's pages. Out for revenge, he traps Sketch in his own comic book. After this setup, you get to take control of Sketch. The game plays as a 2D beat-em up, and there is a versatile list of moves you can perform. You will need to bring your A-game as the enemies are no pushover. And very early on, you will realize that this game pulls no punches. Not only because of the challenging enemies, but also because even simple things like destroying objects in the environment drain your health, which makes zero sense to me. You also only have 2 lives. After losing 1 life, you get back to the start of the page, and if you lose them both, you lose all of your progress and have to play the entire game again. Since the enemies themselves, and in particular in the last episode, are able to drain your health quickly with just a few attacks, this makes it a bit frustrating when you lost some health to a box that you desperately needed to survive incoming attacks from enemies. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for a challenging game, but this just feels like artificial difficulty that's just there to make the game more challenging instead of being well designed. Though I will say that this forces you to be creative, and this is where your partner the rat comes in, as the rat can find otherwise inaccessible items that you can use to bypass enemies or destroy obstacles. Unfortunately, the game poorly explains why this rat is useful and what he does, and only after looking this up online did I finally understand. And even then, the rat seems to not be the smartest, since when I needed him to find an item, instead he decided to fall off, which screwed me over as I now had no access to a bomb that I needed to bypass an enemy. So this game can be really unforgiving and frustrating, but if you look past this, Comix Zone also has a lot of aspects to love. The biggest one is probably the whole comic book style, which looks amazing and is a perfect combination with the beat-em up genre. And the game also gets clever with this, as you can push enemies through panels and most enemies that appear are drawn by Mortis, which is a nice touch. Aside from that, there are lots of deviating paths that also give the game some replay value, though these are just small deviating paths that ultimately lead to the same area. The puzzles in this game can be really creative and again utilize the fact that you are in a comic book. Another great part is that Comix Zone is really short, so when you lose all of your lives you don't have to replay crazy amounts of levels. Losing all of your lives can be seen as one of the 3 endings, where Mortis is ready to rock the real world. If you can make it all the way to the end, the game concludes with the final confrontation against Mortis, as he comes back in the comic book to fight you. In this scenario there are 2 outcomes, with you defeating him and saving Alyssa Cyan before she drowns, or being able to defeat Mortis but not in time to save Alyssa, and seeing her lifeless body floating is kind of haunting. Aside from the awesome visuals, the game is also accompanied by a great soundtrack that is perfect for the game, making the frustrating parts a bit easier to deal with. In the end, I'd say that while this is a great beat-em up, it's certainly not for everyone. If you easily get frustrated and don't like difficult games, you should probably pass on this game. Still, even then, you could just check out this game for the beautiful visuals, which gives this game so much character, making it unique and stand out from the competition. While I did enjoy my time playing this game, the frustrating aspect kept me from replaying it or ever wanting to play it again for that matter. Still, this is a game that I will never forget about, and for that reason alone, it's worthy of its current legacy.